I went through Europe years ago, many times, and I noticed that there was experiments going on the whole populations, different experiments in different countries. And I know they were all led by the same people, and I got verification of that from a parliamentarian in Norway, in fact. But they probably weren't aware of it, and they were pushing a form of socialism that incorporated many of the techniques that were used in the communist states. They were using it in Sweden, for instance, as avant-garde for everything, and the feminist thing, and there's no such difference in genders. It's all learned behavior from your parents and all that rubbish. So they're doing that there, and in Holland, they had, at that time, it's no kidding you, I think they had something like a third of the population on permanent disability with bad backs. And they even did programs on the BBC about that. And anyone who said they were an artist, because they tried that thing, if I say I'm something, you better say I'm something too. It could be gender, whatever. But if I say you're an artist, then the government had to buy your paintings off you. And so you did a few scribbles every year. And even had massive buildings to house all these scribbles, you see. And so eventually it couldn't last because of the debt factor. But what they were trying to do too was to encourage, and they did the program to encourage the men to stay home with the babies and let the women go out to work. All these experiments across the whole of Europe. And all that data was being fed up to the source because we're already global and run by the guys who run the global financial systems and so on. We're already global. And there's Holland now, after right to Parliament and golden carriage, the Dutch king says there's an end to the welfare state. I guess the experiment's over. And all the data again was fed up to the big boys who owned them all. Didn't know at the time they were already owned, you see. And by the big money boys that owned all their central banks and so on. The big global gang. But they've now finished their big welfare state there, it says here, and the king declares it in a speech written by the Prime Minister. So the Dutch government heralded the end of the welfare state Tuesday as the fifth largest Eurozone economy, presented an austerity-driven budget for 2014. I always think of the way things are written, it's interesting. It says the classic welfare state is slowly but surely turning into a society of participation, King Willem Alexander told Parliament, laying out the Liberal-led government plans for the year. See, the Liberals brought in the welfare, and see, people still believe that there's different parties. So it's asked of all of those who can take responsibility for their own life and those around them, the king said in a speech written by Prime Minister Mark Rutte. So you get to take responsibility for your own life, supposedly. If that was the case, they'd leave you with more cash in your pocket to do so. But you see, they've got mass immigration going in there too, from all countries except Europe, the same as Britain. And they're paying all this money out to house all these new folk and pay for their welfare and stuff like that, you see. But says the king, who travelled through the streets of The Hague to address MPs and senators in an ornate horse-drawn golden carriage, said the transformation would be particularly noticeable in social security and long-term health care policies. And the classic welfare state of the second half of the 20th century has ended up with practices in these domains that have become untenable in their current form, said the king, whose country for decades symbolised the Western European ideal of the welfare state. And it says that the Dutch finance minister, Joran Dijsselbloem, later unveiled his budget in Parliament, with the Netherlands economy still struggling to return to growth. Then they go on about the growth factor of GDP and all the rest of it, and growth predictions 0.5% for 2014. You understand this is all rubbish that you're trained to believe is all real? I mean, where's it written? Is there some god that came down and wrote it into stone that we're supposed to all work for in a system where certain people are allowed to run all the economy and the money system, you see? And that we're all born in to serve the economy, and we're all racing with other countries to try to get ahead of them, you see, and to get a stronger currency, which we don't own anyway, which is never stable. And there's no point saving it up because it's getting devalued all the time, because it's built into the system. And understand the whole thing is a big, giant con, folks. Absolute con. But we're trained into this, see? And then you get the growth prediction of 0.5% for 2014 is less than previous forecasts, and unemployment on the rise since June 2011 is expected to climb beyond 9%. It's right out of Orwell's 1984. Choco rations are up. Always throwing out statistics, you see, that you're supposed to believe in, you see. But that's your job, serve the economy, do what you're told, get taxed to death, and go into austerity at the same time. Isn't that wonderful? Are those who take all the cash off you and running on this also, are they living in austerity? Do they plan to? Of course they don't, folks. They're just perfecting their system of ultimate greed. You see? At one time they had to leave you with so much money just to keep happy, more so in the States than any other country, because they were getting built up to be the big battering ram for the world, taken over from Britain to globalize the system. And now they're taking it all away again, you see, to standardize them into the old system. Now they've been the battering ram. And China will take over. That's what they said at the CFR long ago. Many years ago. Back in the 30s, actually, the Royal Institute of International Affairs said that. So, but it's all there, folks.